Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, council members. I'm going to be calling to order the special city council meeting for January 22nd, 2022. Madam Clerk, roll call and posting of the agenda.
Councilmember Basua,
Here.
Councilmember Lopez,
Here.
Councilmember Madrigal,
Here.
Councilmember Perrello,
Here.
Councilmember Tehran,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem McDonald,
Here.
Mayor Zaragoza.
Here,
Thank you. The posting of the agenda. For the agenda for this meeting was posted at the City Hall Bulletin Board on January 14th, 2022. Thank you.
thank you. Our next item is the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States. Please follow me and with a moment of silence for numerous individuals that have passed. Thank
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, our next item is a public hearing, and this is the city attorney. And this is a public hearing regarding the redistricting of the city of Oxnard. And the recommendation is that the city council conduct a public hearing regarding the redistricting process for city council districts and receive a presentation from the city's redistricting consultant regarding the maps that have been submitted. So let me share some information here before we start. This is a time and place set for a public hearing on item C1, city attorney. Subject is public hearing regarding redistricting of city council districts. The recommendation is that city council conduct a public hearing regarding the redistricting process for the city council districts and receive a presentation from the city's redistricting consultant regarding the maps that have been submitted. We start with the city clerk's certification of publication and any written communications, if any. Madam Clerk.
Mayor Zaragoza, there was a legal notice for this public hearing published in the Vida newspaper and on the city's website on January 13th, 2022. The
But-
city clerk's
Go ahead.
The city clerk's office received written communications on this item and were forwarded to council for consideration.
Okay, thank you so much. But before we continue, we have, we're going to run our oh, Assembly Bill 361.
That's 3 ingredients.
Thank you. All right, thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Clerk. The city attorney will now introduce a demographer consultant who will provide a presentation regarding this item. Following the presentation, she'll be available to answer any brief clarifying questions council members may have before we take any public testimony on this item. Council will have the opportunity to provide additional feedback during the public hearing, after the public hearing has been closed. Mr. City Attorney, Ken.
Yes, good morning, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. Good to talk to you after that rousing introduction. This is our fifth public hearing regarding redistricting. As you recall, we had prior public hearings on July 29th, September 6th, December 6th, and January 6th. I'm now going to turn over to Kristen Parks of National Demographics, who will give a PowerPoint presentation regarding the redistricting process, and will also take public comment after her presentation is over. Ms. Parks.
Welcome,
Good
Christian.
morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to share my screen and go ahead through the PowerPoint that is an overview of the redistricting process, as well as the maps that have been received up to this point. And since I last saw you, I do not believe we have received any additional maps. So let's jump in here. So as you just heard, there was a summary of the previous public hearings and the accomplishments that have already been made in this process as we move along towards our April 17th deadline. Their next public hearing will be on February 1st. And of course, the reason for the April 17th deadline is to give the county registrar plenty of time to prepare for the November election. So a quick review of the legal criteria as we evaluate the draft maps. This is what we need to keep in mind. First and foremost, the federal legal requirements. The first one is equal population. So you'll notice that each of the draft maps have already been evaluated to see if they comply with the federal requirement for equal population. What we are looking for is a total population deviation, which is the difference between the population deviation of the largest district and the smallest district. We're looking for that percentage to be under 10%. Of course, we want to comply with the Federal Voting Rights Act and ensure that the vote of protected classes of voters is not being diluted. And we want to make sure that we are not drawing any district based predominantly or solely on race. We want to look at other demographic factors, characteristics, and community features. So under California law, we have the Fair Maps Act. This is a new law that has given us a rank ordered list of criteria that must be considered for the districts, and they must be considered in order of importance. So first and foremost, we need to have districts that are geographically contiguous, meaning that each district is one entire piece with no disconnected parts. Second, and this is what much of the discussion around draft maps should focus on, is minimizing the division of neighborhoods and communities of interest. Third, we want to create easily identifiable boundaries so that residents of the city know exactly where their district ends and the next one begins. And finally, we want to maintain compact districts. A compact district is one that is not bypassing a nearby area and then snaking around to take in a farther away area. So you can often look at shape to get a sense of compactness. After legal criteria have been addressed, we can talk, if necessary, about some of the traditional criteria of redistricting. These are things like preserving the core of the existing districts, perhaps thinking about where future growth may occur in the city, and minimizing changes to election cycles or minimizing moving voters who are currently expecting to vote in 2022 into a district that may not be up for election until 2024. So this is a lot that we have on our plate to think about, but we can start with the current districts. And of the current districts, we do see that there is a significant population deviation. So what this tells us is that first requirement under federal law of equal population wouldn't be met by the current map as it stands. So modifications do need to be made, and this council will need to adopt a new map. A couple other things to point out here, that there are across the districts. You can see language spoken at home, housing, and citizen voting age population, as well as the total population statistics here. Councilmember Perrello, do you want to ask a question now?
Just to verify in my mind, on your presentation, percent deviation, the district with the best and closest to ideal is District 1. Is that an accurate statement?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that 19.97%, of course, the way that you calculate that is by looking at the largest district's deviation, and that's deviation from the ideal number. So that the 19.97 is that 15.89% deviation from District 2 added to the 4.07% deviation of District 6, which is the smallest district. So that's where those numbers come from. All right, so in terms of the maps that you've received thus far in the process, there were 3 maps submitted by the public and 3 maps produced by National Demographics, the demographer consultant firm. And quickly we can go through these maps. And is there another hand right now?
Ms. Parks, if I could jump in a quick second. I know this
Yes.
was the PowerPoint from the last time. After the PowerPoint was prepared, we did get an additional public map submitted by Planning Commission Chair Daniel Chavez Jr. So that is also a map that had some minor changes as well. And I would ask Deputy City Attorney Jason Zaragoza to pull up that map at the end so we can also discuss and have that map available. And Chris and I apologize for the interruption.
Okay.
No, thank you
can
so
I-
much. We need to consider all of the maps that have been submitted.
Mr. City Attorney, Ken, should we take any comments now or after the public?
Yes, I think it's important is
Okay,
that we take the question from Councilmember Madrigal.
okay, Madrigal, Councilman.
Thank you. I'm actually on the website to submit maps. And actually, I submitted a map last Tuesday and Mr. Herrera submitted a map yesterday. So we have 2 other maps. So if that's helpful at all.
Always helpful to have additional maps.
Thank you.
NDC does process all of the maps that are submitted by the public, and that usually takes us 7 to 10 days. But we can have that all ensure that that's publicly available and available to council for consideration. So thank you for letting us know that there are more maps than what we have already received, which is fantastic.
We have a question from a Councilmember Turan.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Parks, for mentioning that. So if Councilmember Madrigal and Mr. Herrera had submitted maps and those take time to process, I don't know if you would help us with this or our staff would help us, but would those maps that were submitted be something that we can review today, or do we have to wait to the next hearing so that those can be processed and then put out to the public ahead of time before we have them at the meeting?
Yeah, that's a great question. It depends whether or not they were submitted in the online version or if they were submitted on paper. If they're submitted online, then the links, perhaps we can get those links into the chat for this Zoom meeting or have those sent by email. If they are paper and it needed to be a PDF that was scanned, then that might take more time.
Christian, the question is, did we get them before or after the agenda item so we can view them today or the next meeting?
Well, they won't be processed until the next meeting.
Before the next,
Yeah, if I can jump in on this point. Generally, the website asks that if a map is submitted, it also informs the city, but that being said, I think that it's important that we get this information out there. So, Ms. Parks, after you finish your presentation, we'll need to make a determination if those maps were submitted
Right.
electronically. If that's the case, we'll have the ability to pull them up to do the basic analysis if they are population balance within the 10% deviation, and then we can provide that information, and we will absolutely be able to provide a review of these maps at our meeting on February 1st, but we'll do our best to be able to do that at today's special meeting as well.
thank you, Councilmember. Let me see, I'm sure if Tehran, are you done, Councilmember?
Yes, that answers my question. Thank you.
Okay, Councilman Perrella?
Thank you. Thank you for this late information. At the last planning commission meeting, it was brought to the public's attention that the two individuals that serve on the planning commission had not been identified for the work that they had done in submitting maps. So I wanted to take this moment to recognize them. They former candidates for council, current sitting planning commissioners. In the process of the description of the maps, can we identify who submits the maps or what organization submits the maps? That's of interest. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that information was not available when we.
Just
when
so
the-
it can be clear for the record, the city's website does indicate that
Yes, sir.
of the 4 maps submitted prior to our last meeting, 2 maps were submitted by Daniel Chavez Jr. 1 was submitted by Vice Chair, Planning Commissioner Vice Chair Ronald Arwejo, and 1 map was submitted by Councilmember Tehran. So that is, their names are
That's right.
mentioned on the city's website. They, of course, were submitting their maps in their private capacity.
That's right. Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
city
you.
attorney. Thank you.
Thank you. Christian, go ahead, Christian.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So it does, and I want to acknowledge that drawing these maps does take a significant amount of time. So members of the public who have put in that time, that is a significant investment in participating in your democracy. So thank you for that. This map, we do tend to give these maps just numbers so that they're much easier to refer to in the deliberations. So public map 1 here, you can see the colored areas are the proposed district boundaries. And then the dashed line is the current or existing district boundaries. And then there's just a snapshot of the complete demographic report here on the slide. You can see that this map is contiguous and it is population balanced with a total deviation of 2.95%.
Okay,
Question?
no, looking, can you see I can't see the map clearly here, so. Okay,
We-
gotcha, okay,
Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
can look at these also on
thank you. Mhm.
the interactive review map during the discussion.
Okay, thank you. Mhm. Okay, Councilwoman Basua?
Thank you, Mayor. My question in regards to this map is how many neighborhoods are split?
Yeah, that's a great question. We haven't done that. Well, yeah, let me pull that up at the end. Give me 1 second to just go through these maps quickly. All right. So while we're showing you here the current council district boundaries. On the interactive review map, you can also see the neighborhoods, so you can see where they are divided in these maps. Okay, public map 2 has a higher deviation, 9.11%, but that is still considered legally compliant. Though NDC is recommending whenever possible that our clients adopt maps that have less than 9% total deviation, simply because there is some concern that in the next year, because of census lawsuits, that there may be challenges around the numbers. So we want to get our deviation a little bit lower if possible. All right. So public map 3 here has a total deviation of 3.33% again, and these maps are contiguous. And I want to get quickly through them. NDC map 201 has a total deviation of 8.08%. Then the next NDC map, 202, has a total deviation of 8.87%. And then finally, the last one gets that total deviation down to 7.25%. Of course, that is not, the population deviation is not the only consideration here. It is just the first box that we want to check as we then proceed to consider other legal criteria, especially the Rank Ordered Fair Maps Act criteria. So I'm going to jump.
Ms. Parks, if I can jump in here briefly, I am going to ask now that Deputy City Attorney Jason Zaragoza pull up the public map number 4, which was submitted by Planning Commission Chair Chavez. So we'll look at that one, and why we're going over that. If we can also ask you, Kristen, to pull up the maps that it has been indicated have been submitted.
Great.
If you can, Kristen, if you can stop sharing for a moment so I can share my screen.
Mhm.
Thank you. And where is it? Okay.
Mr. Zaragoza, is that public map 4?
Yes, it is. I'm just trying to get it into a format that fits on the screen for everyone to see.
Okay.
So this is a PDF of public map 4, which I can zoom in and out of. And then this is probably a better look. This is the actual map that was submitted through Dave's Redistricting. So Kristen, I don't know if you can do a brief analysis on how this differs from the previous map submitted. But this is just to give you an idea of what D4 looks like as part of the discussion.
And it looks like we have a question from Councilmember Sharon.
Yes, so I was just going to mention, Mr. Zaragoza, if you click on the statistics button, we can see kind of the deviation and how each of the districts balances out there. And if you scroll down and have a little bit more details as well, but I think that's kind of the main things that we look for as far as the below the 10% threshold, and then with majority, minority districts, et cetera. And then where it says analyze next to that, it has a little bit more data as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure where you want me to go with the analysis, but this is the statistical snapshot here on population deviation. So I think the first thing that we'd look at, and then this is just an overview of what the map looks like. Sort of difficult to drill down on the fly and get an analysis on what this does versus the original map submitted by the same individual, by Daniel Chavez Jr. But yeah, this is one of the maps that is available on the website.
So anything else on that, Jason?
Ms. Park, are you able to pull up
Yeah.
the maps that was submitted by Councilmember Madrigal and by Mr. Herrera apparently yesterday or last night?
Have those been shared with me? Or are they posted on the website?
Those would be maps that as has been indicated by Councilor Madrigal, that were submitted via either Dave's Redistricting or the Maptitude website. Maybe we get some clarification. Councilor Madrigal, can
Councilor
you-
Madrigal?
I could actually share all three. They're all on Dave's website as it is right now.
Okay.
If I'm allowed to do that, I don't know.
Yes, absolutely. We definitely want this open
Yes.
dialogue.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Yeah, and
This
just
is-
so you all know, Dave's doesn't notify us when maps have been completed. So unless we receive an email with a link to the map, we have no way of knowing. So thank you for
Okay.
being able to access those links.
So just to make it very clear, though, to the council, we will absolutely have these maps to the website by no later than Monday, and we'll be able and be prepared to have a full analysis.
Yeah, this is Mr. Herrera's map from, I believe, what is it? 20 minutes ago.
Mhm.
So that's Mr. Herrera's. And then if you go to the statistics, it is at 7.35. Then this is Mr. Herrera's map from 2 days ago. It does have the same deviation. Obviously, I cannot tell based on if any neighborhoods are broken up. It does have the same deviation of 7.35. And then I turned in, I did this map on last Tuesday. And then that one has a deviation of 3.9.
What was that, 2.5?
No, 3.9.
Okay,
3.9.
3.9. Good, thank you.
So that's just it. And then I'll stop sharing.
Councilman Tehran?
Thank you, Mayor. I was going to make another point and I forgot what it was. But I appreciate Councilor Madrigal and Mr. Herrera submitting the maps. And then I also saw the Planning Commission meeting, and I do have to thank Mr. Chavez and Mr. Arwejo for their submissions as well. I know that they submitted them as private citizens, but their engagement within our community is certainly to be commended. Not only do they submit maps in this civic process, but they also volunteer their time as planning commissioners. So thank you for that. I do remember what I was going to say. I believe that Mr. Chavez had said at our previous hearing that he had a map he was going to submit, which I believe is the one we just saw. And that version of the map sought to not split up any neighborhoods. And so I would hope that we can get an analysis of the newly submitted maps to get some ideas a little bit more granular about what that looks like. If any of them split up neighborhoods, which I could tell just by glancing at them, it looks a lot better than the one I submitted, the 3 that we just saw. And I think that those would be really worth looking at more in detail so that we can take them into full consideration. So thank you for that. And thank you for taking the time to bring them up for us.
And also I want to thank you, the planners, Mr. Chavez and Arajo and Mr. Herrera, for taking the time out that really going to help the community. And of course, Councilmember Madrigal, thank you for the additional work.
If
Okay.
I could jump in now, Mr. Mayor, I believe it would be helpful just because the time for the submittal of maps is running out, that Councilor Madrigal, if you are willing to go ahead and share your screen again with those maps, I think it would be helpful if we could look at the maps, look at kind of boundary lines, and at least start our dialogue regarding those three maps. Time is of the essence for a decision to be made. So we want to be very
Okay.
clear and very transparent that this information is available to the public. As I mentioned, it will absolutely be posted on our website by no later than Monday morning.
Madrigal, can go ahead and share those maps. Okay, thank you.
I think it's gonna have issues loading in a second, but so I'll hit stop share until it loads.
So we have, is that Steve? Steve?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to remind everybody that we do have additional hearings coming up on this. So, and there is that's why we designed the deadline for submittal of maps to accommodate analysis of those maps as they come in. And as pointed out before, there is a bit of a lag between submittal time and the ability to analyze those maps.
Thank you, Steve. Mhm. Okay,
Oh, do you need me to share? Hold on. This is Mr. Herrera's map. Right in here, this is his first map. Or actually, this might be the map he turned in about 20 minutes ago or 30 minutes ago now. Is there anywhere, or do you prefer the map or the statistics?
and what was the deviation in that
Deviation
deviation?
was, once this loads, I believe it's 7.35, but for some reason, I think the wind's messing up with my service, so it is. So I don't think I'm gonna be much help with the sharing of screen.
Mr. Zaragoza, are you able to share on your screen? Can you see if you're have a better ability in which to do that?
I've got it.
Okay, perfect.
In the meantime, Duran, do you want to share something in between or? Council member?
No, thank you, Mayor. I apologize. I had my hand up on accident.
Okay, and also Councilman Perrello?
Yes, I want to reach out and thank Councilman Madrigal for helping us out here. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
So the total deviation here is 7.35%. If we click on the analyze button, it also will let us know that the map is complete, meaning that all precincts have been assigned. This map is also contiguous. And so that analyze button can also be very helpful here for looking at some of these basic requirements. And then I don't think we have the neighborhoods overlaid on this map. So I would have to export this and import it into our interactive map that has neighborhood boundaries on it, or put those here.
Ms. Sparks, please hold for a moment. Mr. Mayor, we have the makers of these recent maps here. So to make this discussion productive, I'd recommend that we pull up their map and ask them to describe what they were trying to intend here, because we can all see that the deviation numbers are correct.
Mhm.
And we can do a thorough technical analysis before the next hearing, but let's just hear what the intent was. So
Right.
I think Mr. Herrera is online.
Oh, he
Obviously,
is.
Councilmember Madrigal's online. Let's just go through each of these maps and get a quick discussion of the intention
Yeah.
and what the macro changes are to the city overall.
So Mr. Herman online? Okay. Manuel, you on? Okay. Councilman Madrigal, can you go ahead and give us an explanation?
Yes, let's wait. Let's pull up his map real quick.
It's the third one.
Is it the one that ends with 07?
Yes.
Mhm.
All right, go ahead.
Mhm.
Yes. I just kind of I wanted to make something a little bit different. Every single map that had been submitted, for the most part, um, everything was pretty much this kind of same with previous map, except for the center part of the city. That's where people were usually pushing and pulling from. This one just kind of be a little bit a little bit different. I know District 4 is still kind of like center more the beach area. Everything else was kind of more based off of actually high schools in the city, with the exception of District 4. District, I believe it's 1 would be all the Oxnard High School area, with the exception of the beach. District 2 would be the old El Rio kind of district. District 3 would be, I guess, what the equivalent of the new high school would be, more than likely. 5 would be Channel Islands High School, and then 6 would be Wainimi High School area. So that's just a different look. Obviously, I'm a council member, so that doesn't really help this. But even though you could say I did it on my own time, it really is kind of the same thing. It's just a different view and just something else to add to our conversation. So thank you.
Thank you. Mhm. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, at this point, I would recommend that we go ahead and accept public comments and then have any further discussion regarding the maps that are before the city council this morning.
So then go ahead and open the public hearing.
Yes, that is my recommendation.
Oh, okay, let me go ahead and open the public hearing portion of the members of the public are invited to sign up to speak on this item on the city's website. And a person that did not sign up may do so now by following the instructions posted on the agenda for this meeting in the city website, which is oxnard.org, city meetings. And speakers will have 3 minutes to speak on this item. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers on this item?
Mayor Zaragoza, we do have 2 public speakers for this public hearing. Thank you.
2 speakers, okay, then 3 minutes.
And I will also start the 3-minute timer for any additional public speakers.
Thank you. Mhm.
Mr. Stein, please unmute by pressing *6.
Good morning, members of City Council. I
Good
drew a
morning.
number of maps last time we had this meeting. And it seems that people making presentations this meeting for this series of maps are getting a lot more public opportunity to speak than I did when I drew my maps a number of years ago. I'm somewhat concerned that the maps being presented today, the visibility of the maps or the readability of the maps on the city screens make it very hard to read during this public comment period. So I don't know why the staff during this public hearing is not making the maps available on the screen so people can actually see the maps. Nothing was readable. I could not read the maps, could not make out the numbers. My biggest concern I'd like to get answered is how have the demographics in the city changed? To what extent have the demographics moved from the south end of Oxnard to the north end of Oxnard? Has there been, to what extent have the deviations affected because of the construction at Wagon Wheel and at River Park? So I'd like to get those answers. I'd like answers to those questions and concerns this morning. Thank you very much for your time.
Ken, do we have some hard copies of
Yes, to the extent that members of the public do not have internet access, the city attorney's office is happy to print out copies of the maps so the members of the public can view them in that manner. Also, as well, the staff report, which is online, for each of the maps, there's a link to the Dave's redistricting site, which has a very robust ability to zoom in and literally on a street by street basis, so you could determine where those lines are drawn. I'm also happy to briefly address, and Ms. Parks, if you could jump in as well if needed, the big difference between the 2010 census and the 2020 census. Mr. Stein, you did kind of outline where the big change in populations are, which is based on the higher deviation for District 2. As currently drafted, District 2 includes Wagon Wheel and River Park, two of the areas of the city that have experienced the largest increase in population. So that is reflected in the census numbers for the 2020 census. So that is a very brief reason why there is the deviation between the districts.
So Ken, for information, they are available in the hard copy on the website and also in Spanish and English, right?
Well, that is correct. And once again, to the extent that members of the public do not have access to the internet, they're welcome to call the city attorney's office 805-385-7483. And we're happy to make available printed color copies of the maps that have been submitted. They are, of course, available on the internet as well at oxnard.org/redistricting, where there's robust information. But we also understand that all members of the public do not have that full access as well. So we're happy. 7483.
Mr. City Attorney, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to add a follow-up comment, following up on what City Attorney Roselle just said, but to Mr. Stein's point. So obviously, we all know that the 2020 census, the official numbers are the official numbers. But make no mistake about it, this census, this time around, this decade, there were numerous efforts to discourage certain communities to participate. We all know this. So while it's clear that the 2020 census took account for River Park and Wagon Wheel, we all, I think intuitively believe that there was significant undercount in many of our neighborhoods. So I don't view the what I would, and this is true for all communities, right? There's always the official census numbers, and then there are the real numbers. So I think it's important to keep that in mind. I am not convinced whatsoever that the population decreased at all especially in South Oxnard. And if you're following what the census does is even after they do the official numbers, they always follow up by doing a after count. And that's an effort that's happening this spring. And if you read the articles and some of the quotes from the actual census workers, they're still concerned that they're not going to get participation for the follow-up effort that's happening this spring. So I just want to remind all of us of those realities from the 2020 census. Thank you.
And again, to share, we want everybody to participate in Spanish and English in every single neighborhood, which is really important. We have another speaker, but Councilman Turan, before we go to the speaker.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Your timing was perfect because I had someone with no muffler on their car just outside revving. So they just left. So now I can speak. I just wanted to circle back to Mr. Roselle was making a point, and I don't know if it was only on my end, but there was an audio issue. It sounded like when he came back on, he was sharing a phone number. And if that wasn't just for me, if that was for everyone, would Mr. Roselle be willing to share that information real quickly again for the public?
Yes, good point.
Yes, absolutely. The information that I was sharing was the number for the city attorney's office for those individuals who don't have internet access and would like a hard copy of the maps that have been submitted to date. And that number is area code 7483. Once again, 385-7483. And we're happy to work with you to either mail or to arrange for pickup at our office. So there is no issue with each of our residents having access to the maps if they do not have ability to do so online, their phone, their laptop, or their personal computer.
Thank you
so
very much.
Okay, Madam Clerk, we have another speaker.
Public speaker on hold. Would you please unmute by pressing *6? Hello?
Hi, this is Debbie Mitchell. Hello, this is Debbie Mitchell.
Good morning. Thank you. You have 3 minutes to speak. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Hi, I just wanted to mention that this morning, and thanks for this meeting. Going to Dave's redistricting, I know Oscar was talking about having some problems. It's running very slow this morning. But I just wanted to thank everybody because the maps that have been submitted this mapping system is difficult, and I'm really impressed with the attention to detail that people have spent. One of the questions that I have about the redistricting map and the lines is that particularly if you just go from any of the maps, District 1 along the beach and over to the east, the holes in it, it makes it look like it is not contiguous. And I know you've mentioned before that is allowed, but I find that very confusing in looking at the maps, that it looks broken up when it's actually not. It's just, it's not broken up. And I had a concern in one of the maps submitted about breaking off the north end of the beach community from the south end of the beach community, because there's, that definitely the entire coastal area is a community of interest. And thank you everyone for the amount of time you've spent on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie Mitchell. Okay.
Mayor, we have one more speaker.
One more speaker. Okay.
Good morning, public speaker. Would you please unmute by pressing *6?
Hello,
Yes, good morning. Who's calling in, please?
this is Manuel Herrera.
Okay, good morning. You have 3 minutes to speak. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, hello everyone. This is Manuel Herrera calling. So I just wanted to briefly explain the two maps I submitted. By the way, there are two. So I submitted one yesterday and I submitted one the day before. But basically the main points for the two maps are it keeps the neighborhoods together. It meets all the required criteria. It keeps the districts close to what the voters had chosen. It adjusts for population growth. And the only difference between the two maps is the size and balance of District 2 and 4. But it still keeps the neighborhoods together. So I just wanted to explain that so that you guys are aware. Now, I don't know if you have both of them. I don't know if you have access to both of them, but I also sent an email to the city and to the city clerk and shared the links with them as well. So just wanted to explain all that for you.
And Mandy, thank you for participating. We appreciate it tremendously. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, Madam Clerk, do we have any additional speakers on this item?
No additional public speakers. Thank you, Mayor.
So if we don't, then I am going to close the public hearing at this time. And I'm closing the public hearing. Council members, do we have any additional comments for our consultant or our staff, Ken or Jason? Councilmember Turan.
Thank you, Mayor. I just, I again want to thank all the members of the public who have participated. Thank you, Councilor Madrigal, as well. I would, I just want to ask a question around how, I know it was stated 7 to 10 days, but given that we have another couple hearings and the deadline for map submission is coming up as well, I'm wondering how long it would take for these additional maps that have been submitted to be analyzed and for us to get some information on them. I know that I thank the speakers for sharing a little bit about them, so we kind of know what to expect, but it would be great to have that in official form for us to see from the consultant, and as well as put out there for the public in the staff report before the next hearing.
If I could start with the response. We do have the new maps. The good thing about the Dave's redistricting mapping tool is that it does let you know right away if the maps meet the basic requirements of the law. So we could, once again, Deputy City Attorney Zaragoza indicated that he will have those maps posted on our website today, so members of the public can start looking at them and reviewing them. And then our office will work closely with Ms. Parks on analyzing that, so there can be an updated staff report posted on our website by no later than Tuesday. So there will be adequate time for the public to review the maps and to make informed decisions for our next meeting, which is scheduled for February 1st.
Thank you. Council members, any additional comments on this items? If, okay, Councilmember Perrello.
Yes, I just want to weigh in. I'm not picking and choosing winners here, but I just want to weigh in on the comment about the beach community. If you think a little common sense here, the beach community, whether north, south, or east or west, they all come into the Coastal Commission. The beach community usually tangles with the county because of contracts with the Channel Islands Harbor. It is, it's not all the same. There are different distinctions, neighborhoods, but you get a little bit wetter, you get a lot wet. The beach community is pretty much a unique individual. I just wanted to share that.
And they're together pretty solid there. Yeah, thank you.
If I can add one more thing as well, I just received a text from Ms. Parks. She indicated that she'll have the maps processed by Monday. So we'll be able to get those posted with any additional analysis, which is necessary. So we were happy to process those. We would also encourage people who are listening, if maps are submitted, our website outlines the requested process for providing an email of the link and just letting us know so we can be sure that we timely process these maps and have them posted on our website. So, but we appreciate all the effort taken by the new individuals who have submitted maps, and we look forward to having those posted for the public's review and analysis.
Thank you. Councilman Madrigal.
A couple things. One, actually went through all 7 maps that had been previously submitted. That's how I found out about the other 3, or actually 2, Mr. Herrera's. But going through the city website, I'm actually a little disappointed with the last map Mr. Chavez turned in, simply because I felt that it wasn't shown to the same extent as the other 3 public maps that have been shown. So it's kind of hard to read, being a council member, reading Mr. Chavez's last map. I know that he stated that he wanted to turn in his 4th map, or that next map, so it wouldn't break up any neighborhoods. But based on the way it's presented on the city website, I can't tell if it does or it does not break up any neighborhoods. That's one. I went through all 3 of the other public submitted or previously submitted maps. I had some information, as the last time we had a public hearing about this, one of the speakers, Ms. Cartagena, said that, we need to start, seeing what's going to happen, what we're going to do. And based what I saw with the county's redistricting, it felt like nothing was happening. And then last second, boom, they did a quick 180, and within like 2 days, a map was submitted and picked that most of the public didn't know about until Sunday when the vote was on Tuesday. So that's the last thing I want this to end up being. So, I went ahead and said that for sure I am not voting for the NDC map 202. And then I did go through some of the other maps. I do like Mr. Arejo's map. The only thing that really does bother me about that map is that it breaks up the Lemonwood neighborhood. And, I went to school in that neighborhood. And, if there's a way for Mr. Arejo or NDC or anyone in city staff, if they're able to fix it to everyone's pleasing, I would probably consider it. Also, same thing with Councilmember Tehran's map. It breaks up Colonia, Lemonwood, Bryce Canyon North, Blackstock North, and Cypress. That's a definite no for me, simply because it's probably 3, 4, 5, 6 of underrepresented neighborhoods, and they're all being broken up. So that an automatic is a no. I know Councilwoman Basua asked about the neighborhoods that it breaks up. I think Mr. Chavez's map, if I read it correctly, his first map, not the second one, but the first one breaks up Cabrillo, Bartolo Square North, 5 Points, and Blackstock South. So, I just kind of have issues with that. But, if I had to pick one of the 7 previously released maps that are on the city website right now, the one I would lean towards is probably, and the only reason I would pick this one is simply because I can't, give an adequate statement, would be Mr. Chavez's second map. And that's only based on the fact that I can't read the neighborhoods. So if that gets fixed from now till February 1st, that would be very helpful.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Lopez, and then Perello.
Thank you, Mayor, and I really appreciate everyone who has been involved in the process, from staff to especially our community, and including my fellow colleagues who have really invested time in drawing and helping draw a map that is fair and equitable for our community. And so, it becomes overwhelming once you start going from, map 1 and map 2, and it just can kind of like blind you. And so it's my understanding, and I wanted to ask staff to clarify that there is an expected the timeline for this process, and we have asked for any maps to be submitted by February 7th. So if you can just correct that, and what happens if a map is submitted afterwards, because I do hear the concern that Councilmember Madrigal brought up in the process, that if a map is submitted last minute and that's the one that, that goes through. My hopes would be in this process is that when we do as a council adopt a map, that we have a thorough review of all the maps, before we do that. So if either Mr. Zaragoza or Mr. Fisher or Mr. Rosell can clarify that process, what is the absolute deadline for us to adopt a map?
Mr. Rosell.
Yes, I'm happy to respond. Under state law, we have to have a new map adopted by April 17th, which that means that the the adoption of the ordinance would have to occur 30 days before that. So we're talking on or about March 15th would need to be the second read of that ordinance. So that is kind of our drop dead deadline. When we set the schedule out, we scheduled 7 public hearings to give plenty of time for members of the public to provide input. Clearly, the council may choose to add additional public hearings and also extend out the February 7th deadline. At this point in time, staff is not recommending that, but that is something which the council, of course, can choose to add additional public hearings, and we're happy to work with the council to effectuate the direction you'd like to take.
Councilman Lopez. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And sorry, before Councilmember Perrello, so the February 7th deadline that we have set, that's kind of absolute, right? So if maps are submitted after February 7th, we won't be reviewing those?
Well, that is the deadline that is set now. And it is our recommendation we don't make modifications to it, but the council does have the ability, if desired, to extend that out. It would push the final process a lot, and we want to make sure there's a chance for there to be robust public discussion and analysis on all the maps that are submitted to the public, submitted to the city. But once again, that's the schedule which staff has recommended at this point in time.
And very quickly,
Steve, you want to add anything before we go to Perrello and McDonald?
Yeah, just to summarize what Mr. Rozelle just said. So we have self-imposed deadlines that can be altered, and there's some flux built into the system. The absolute deadline for adoption is later than the timeline we have set. So if the council chooses to change that timeline, Mr. Rozelle pointed out the absolute end date, but we've built in some buffer time just in case.
Thank you. We have a city manager
Yes.
before we go to Perrello.
yes. So if I could provide a different perspective as city manager, I would not recommend extending the February 7th deadline, because one of the key issues here is to have enough time, for us to conduct the analysis of all maps received, but also have time for the public and the council to view them and study them. So the further out we push the deadline to submit maps, the less time people might have to examine all of them. So I recommend we hold to this February 7th deadline so that we can quickly turn the maps around and get them published. I would like to get everything published. I think our last meeting on this topic right now is scheduled for February 16th. Is that correct? So I'd like to publish a week prior and not have the what Councilmember Madrigal alluded to earlier, not having a 2-day publication of especially of a new map. Thank you.
And also the county needs it for the elections, for the November elections, which is extremely important.
Thank
Okay,
you,
we have,
Mayor. And I'll just, if I can just conclude my comments, that I would agree with that statement that we should stick to that February 7th deadline so that we have a proper vetting of the maps. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. We have Councilmember Perrello, Mayor Pro Tem, and Turan. Perrello?
I would support sticking with the deadline that we have in place. And I want to thank all the speakers, and I want to thank the council members that helped with some extra information to get to the rest of us, sharing screens and sharing information, and the fact that they knew about it. But the question I have is for the city attorney's office. If council members start saying they will or will not support a map, can they be challenged in a future vote on this matter? That's my question. I'm really concerned that somebody get hung out there because they're making a challenge to a specific map at the present time, when we're not in decision-making time right now.
Councilmember
That's my
Perrello,
question.
There is no legal issue with the council member expressing his or her opposition to a particular map. I think it's helpful if we can get input from each of the council members about the maps they like and don't like, because I think that also gives us the ability to potentially tweak some of the maps that are there to help address issues which have been raised. So we really do, this is a dialogue between staff, the public, and the council on which maps they like and don't like. And I think it's a very helpful process.
Okay, in that matter, then I'll weigh in on this. I think the most telling comment of all the people that spoke, and I don't always agree with the young lady, Barbara Macri-Ortiz at the last meeting. She made comment that the council is working together in the size of the districts and the shapes of the district they have. Minor tweaking of the districts would possibly take care of the neighborhoods they represent and the communities and the issues that represent them. I don't have fault with people making maps. I wish some of the people that had brought up maps, if they were aware of the first time that we were sued to create the maps, there's only 2 other people on the council that were here at the time, Madrigal and McDonald. And with the information that came out at that time, the main significance was the South End wasn't represented. And the downtown area, they wanted everybody's district to be touching in the downtown area so that everybody would have a piece of the decision-making with what happens in downtown. And, you know, I wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve Fisher, you want to share anything before we go with Mayor Pro Tem?
I just wanted to follow up on Councilmember Perello's first point that he raised, and I appreciate the concern he expressed on due process issues, but I just wanted to point out that this is not a land use permit situation where the announcement of a council member's position before the final decision public hearing occurs implicates due process rights. This is a political legislative type action that's being considered, and that's sort of built into the process the purpose of all these hearings is to get feedback from the council members on the maps as they're presented and analyzed.
Thank you, City Attorney Fisher. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem McDonald, followed by Teron, and then Basua.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say thank you to everybody that submitted maps. When we first started this process, I was a little nervous that we might not get a lot of participation, so I'm glad to see that changing. And looking at the maps, and I haven't looked at all of them yet because I haven't looked at the newest ones that just came in the last couple of days. Certainly, there are some that I like more than others, and there are some that I don't like as much as others. So, and I know that's vague and innocuous, but I'm still in the reviewing mode at this point. But I'm glad that people are participating. I'm glad that people gave up their Saturday morning to be part of this process, both on the elected side and the speaker side, the participant side. So I'm just really looking forward to this process moving forward. And I would agree that we should probably keep our originally stated deadline, just for the simple fact of it's a little bugaboo about me, but I hate setting a deadline and then changing it all the time. It's like having a moving target. Why even set it in the beginning? So thanks to everyone that participated. Thanks for all that submitted maps, and we shall carry on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilmember Teron, followed by Councilmember Basua.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm willing to let Councilwoman Basua go first because I've already spoken, and I know that she just raised her hand a little after I did.
Councilmember
Basua. That's fine. Councilmember Teron, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Just a couple quick points. I'm on the city's website now, oxnard.org/redistricting, and I know that we're updated through the 4th publicly submitted map from Mr. Chavez. And then we have some additional ones that we reviewed today. So I know Mr. Zaragoza said he'd get those up. So thank you for that. And then we have the 3 from the consultant. Some points I'd like to make is that from that webpage, you can zoom in and get some pretty detailed views of each of the maps, especially the ones from the public that have that go to the Dave's Redistricting website, and you can see pretty granular by zooming in just how whether they break up neighborhoods or not. I would like to make a request that the PDF versions of those that are available on the website as well, if those could also be, if they don't have them yet, I see some of them have it and some of them don't, have an overlay of the neighborhoods, so that way it's a little bit easier to see if the neighborhoods are broken up by the boundaries that are drawn by the person who made the map. And then for NDC's maps that they have on the website as well, just if we can continue that consistency too of having the overlay with the pink boundaries for each of the neighborhoods. So we can see these are the district boundaries that are proposed. These are the existing neighborhood boundaries. So it's very easy for the public and the viewer to see exactly how those shape out and if there are any breakups by the district boundaries. The last thing I'll say is we have the deadline of February 7th there on the redistricting portion of the website. Can we add a time on there so it's a little bit more concrete for folks? February 7th at noon, February 7th at 6 p.m., whatever that may be. So that way we know, and it's objective, this is the deadline. And after that time, we will be now reviewing all the maps. So those are my requests. And I will say that I am reserving, picking and choosing which ones work and which ones don't until I have time to review all of those that have been submitted. So thank you again.
Yeah, thank you for recommendations, Councilman Basua, followed by Mr. Perlin, Councilman Perlin.
Thank you, Mayor. I just kind of want to reiterate, I know during the last hearing, I kind of said what I'm looking for. I want to thank the Mr. Herrera and Mr. Madrigal for submitting the additional maps, which I will be reviewing. As I go through these maps, I see that the deviation for the most part is at less than 9%. So what I'm looking at next is the neighborhoods. I know one map cuts Lemonwood neighborhood, which I think it's really important at least to maintain all the neighborhoods together as much as possible. And again, I haven't looked really thoroughly on all the maps, but I know already which maps I feel will probably not work for at least what I'm thinking and what I'm envisioning. And I'm looking forward to looking at the 3 maps that were just submitted. And I just want to make sure that I keep repeating myself as far as what is important, at least for me, and is to maintain most of these neighborhoods intact. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Perrella?
Yes, I just have a question, a comment. I think Mr. Turan is right. There should be some date, whether it comes in electronically or it comes in person, there's a timestamp on it so we avoid any problems down the road, legal or non-legal. The second thing is, with respect to neighborhoods, I have a question. The South Bank neighborhood was cut, but the South Bank neighborhood did incorporate Wagon Wheel. Is Wagon Wheel a standalone official neighborhood? That's my question.
Do we know
And
that?
if it is not, do we have any other areas that are not standalone neighborhoods that are being considered neighborhoods?
Ken, do we know that, or that's additional information?
The neighborhoods are based upon the general plan designation. I will need to go back and confirm that particular point. We do have our neighborhood maps on our city's website. I don't have that up in front of me at this moment, but we'll get back to you on that.
Because I think that I am correct. There's never been a neighborhood council set up in the Wagon Wheel. There is a plan to have one, but if we're talking about neighborhoods, we want to make sure they get an equal shake. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, City Attorney Rosell.
Thank you. I want to share, that we, all the consultants, staff, and all the folks that have submitted maps, we have met the legal criteria for redistricting, which I think is really important, meeting the legal criteria. So I want to thank, our consultant, our staff, Mr. Chavez, Mr. Araujo, Mr. Herrera, Councilman Madrigal, Councilman Turan, and all the individuals and all the council members for excellent presentation and ideas. And this is really, really democracy at its best, and Christian, you're doing a good job. And I think the whole thing is that we're giving the community an opportunity to participate, and we're going to give them hard copies. They can look at the website and anything we can do. And I think Ken even mentioned if we wanted to, we could even deliver to their homes. I didn't say that, but potentially we could do so. But I also want to say, that the purpose of this public hearing was to receive and report and receive public input. And Christian, do you have additional information you want to share with us? Go ahead, Christian.
Yes, I just wanted to let everyone know that Wagon Wheel is identified and labeled on the neighborhood maps. And so on all of the PDFs with overlays, it's also identified.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank everybody for spending Saturday morning with the public. And as for public members, council members are on board 24/7 as well as staff. So I want to thank everybody for participating this morning. So if that is, this is the last item on this agenda.
Hold on.
So Mayor, I believe Mr. Zaragoza has raised his hand.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to briefly respond to Councilmember Turan. So For submittals of the maps through Dave's Redistricting, there are instructions on the city's website that you basically copy and paste the link and then send it to redistricting@oxnard.org. So that's just a reminder for members of the public to send your maps, your online maps to redistricting@oxnard.org. Thereafter, they're immediately, I shouldn't say immediately, but as soon as we get the notification, we take a PDF of it and we post it to the website along with the link. The website does not have the PDF that we originally post does not have the neighborhood overlay. That comes from NDC. So NDC then takes the map and analyzes it and processes it. So what we try to do with the site is post a link and a PDF of what is submitted as soon as we get it, but that does not include the neighborhood overlay or the additional information that NDC provides. So that generally comes after they're able to analyze the map. So that's why you'll see one of the maps up there right now that does not have the neighborhood overlay. After this meeting, I will post the ones that are on submitted through Dave's redistricting right now. Thereafter, NDC will do their analysis, do the neighborhood overlay, and that'll be posted up on the site prior to next meeting.
Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Zaragoza. Thank you. Thank you for additional information. Councilmember Perrello.
Yes, the comment that had been asked, similar to submitting a bid, is there going to be a hard deadline so that we don't have somebody coming to the city, say after the close of business, saying that they were here on that date, but they didn't get it submitted? Is there a hard deadline time that this has to be submitted?
Ken?
Yes, at this point in time, we have the hard deadline of December 7th at 5 PM. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm a month behind here. So no, it's February 7th at 5 PM.
5 p.m.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Council members, any additional comments, Mr. City Manager? No? So that's thank you again for spending Saturday morning with us. And this is Council Madrigal.
Yes, real quickly on the chat, I think there is a public speaker wondering if they could speak
There is a public speaker?
on the chat. If you look at the chat,
On the chat, Madam Clerk? No? Yes.
there would be
There is
Mr.
someone, but public comments, it's
Okay.
been closed.
Okay.
The 3 minutes are up, yeah. Thank you, Councilman. Do we have, go ahead, if we have the speaker before we adjourn. Thank you, Councilman. Right.
Good morning,
Thank you,
council. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Planning Commissioner.
I apologize for my tardiness and I appreciate it. Thank you, Councilman Madrigal. Council members, I just caught a brief moment of the meeting. I just wanted to make comment is that one of the concerns that I had with the Dave's Redistricting online, and I know Councilman Madrigal brought this up previously, was in regards to the neighborhood councils and ensuring that those were actually reflected. On my map that I submitted, it's more of precincts, voting precincts versus the actual neighborhoods. So on my map, in regards to the 5 Points neighborhood and the Pacific Commercial area, it shows the Pacific Commercial actually encompassing more of the 5 Points because it just wasn't given as an option to be able to highlight specific neighborhoods. So I know it was mentioned before by Councilman Madrigal to look into having that as an option. And the consultant did say that they were going to put an overlay or something in place so that could be an option. Unfortunately, that was not an option when I went back and submitted my map. Again, I did not hear all the comments in regards to the map that was presented, but I am available after the meeting if necessary, if there's any specific questions. But I do believe that it is important to try to have something that demonstrates that we are able to look at the current neighborhood councils, because that is a big concern for all the council members in order to ensure that those are intact as much as possible. Unfortunately, that just wasn't an option online to be able to do that. And after reviewing my map one more time, I did notice that I actually took a small part of one of the South Oxnard neighborhoods. I mean, very minimal part of it. And it was actually taken out and placed in another district. And that was because it was going by precinct lines versus the neighborhood council lines. So if there's another program or another way to actually try to ensure that we have our neighborhood councils stay intact, again, I think it would be beneficial to try to get that in there. That has been a concern and brought up multiple times by council members from the very beginning when we started the public hearing process. And we still don't have anything, and we're coming to the tail end. So again, I do appreciate the opportunity to address you all this morning. I appreciate all your guys' service to our community and look forward to future meetings on the redistricting. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members.
Thank you, Commissioner Christian. Do you have a response for Commissioner Chavez?
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to say, I thank you for those comments. And I do believe the neighborhood overlay was added after he submitted his map. So it should be there now. And it should show up in blue lines.
Thank you. Councilmember Charan.
Yes, thank you. And thank you to Mr. Chavez for commenting on that. It did activate something that did come up this week. I understand that I was reached out to from a constituent, Mr. Herrera, actually, that he was having trouble on the website. And I don't recall if it was Mapify or if it was Dave's redistricting, but he was having trouble with receiving the confirmation email for signing up for an account. And I believe he reached out for help on that. And Mr. Zaragoza from our city attorney's office was helpful in troubleshooting that. But I just wanted to bring that up, that someone did receive some kind of issues with that, but it has been resolved. But if members of the public are having issues, can we just share with them who they should contact to get that resolved?
Who can, Ken?
Yes, happy to do so. There's a couple different ways. One, you can email us at redistricting@oxnard.org, or you can call the city attorney's office at 805-385-7483 and ask to speak to Jason Zaragoza or myself.
Okay, thank you so much. Any additional comments before we adjourn? If not, we will adjourn. Thank you so much for participating this Saturday. Thank you. We're adjourned.